Today is Wednesday, December the 4th. Advancers led decliners 65 to 30%. Volume was low in the Dow, above average in the NASDAQ. A lot of buying in Apple, I would suspect. And the S&P 500 was near average volume. We had a bit of a drop at the close, which possibly indicates traders just taking today off the top because they have an uneasy sense about tomorrow. The oscillator hasn't been updated yet, but you can see that yesterday, yes, it has been updated. So here it is. So we've bounced back. So we exceeded the last low for the momentum oscillator. We didn't go down to oversold, but I still believe that we will. So this is the bounce that we talked about yesterday as being more likely, given that we had this pretty big drop, but we finished with at the top of the candles. That indicated that the buying came in late in the day and was likely to continue, and that's what we saw. But we got rejected by the 8 EMA, and we still haven't closed that gap. So we now have 3 gaps underneath us that remain open, and that's not something that you see happen too often. The volatility index dropped slightly, so it's now in between the typical low and the typical high. So it's about halfway in the band of where we expect volatility to be. Apple really only up $2. Let me look at the daily here. Look what it did today, though. It did close its gap, and that's all that it did. You can see it very clearly on the 5-minute, where we quickly from the open went up and closed the gap, and that was all that she wrote. The sellers were sitting up there, and there wasn't enough buying to drive the stock any higher. So let's go back to the daily chart now, and you can see that Apple's volume was anemic, pretty low, and yesterday's volume was quite high, driving it back up to the top of the candle. So we can get rid of that gap, but we're still now sitting very close to that one, and there's a good likelihood, I would think, tomorrow that we'll close that gap with a drop. We may bounce off the bottom because we bounced off the top of a gap today with resistance, so this one may find support. When that happens, that tells you that that's just computer trading that's taking place. Computers are setting their buys and their sells at the top ends and the bottom ends of the gaps. There was another thing that I noticed today, and that was that the Woody's pivots played a role. If you look at AT&T, resistance 3 for the Woody's pivot is where the automated traders were sitting. Home Depot, not so much. The S&P, not so much. So really it was just AT&T. Caterpillar got above the resistance 2, came down, held the resistance 2 for quite a while, and then dropped down almost to the pivot point. So let's go back to our daily charts. Caterpillar really finished the day only up 6 cents. So that's pretty disappointing because at one point in the day it was up $2 and it came back to finish up 6 cents. So the pain in Caterpillar hasn't abated yet, although today's volume was pretty low. The Home Depot play still not ready to buy. Look at that, just above the 200 moving average. We didn't get the jump off the cloud yesterday with the Chiku span 26 periods behind, 26 days behind the price. So there's a possibility that Home Depot goes down and still seeks the 200 simple day moving average, and we haven't seen it hit the 200-day simple moving average since this area here in May, when the 200 simple and the EMA were coinciding. So that was a pretty attractive coincidence there, and that drew sellers and then buyers at that coincidence. We still have the 68.1% at 211.89, so that's where Home Depot could still be going, because we didn't really see the kind of bounce off the 200 that we were looking for yesterday that would indicate that there was strength in the stock. WDC continues to disappoint. Whirlpool still not ready to buy. Look at this. It tried to make a charge up and it finished down with this gravestone doji candle, finishing the day up $1.11, but very, very close to where it opened on Tuesday. Amazon down 12. Really nothing technically of significance. The Chiku span here is in the middle of the cloud, so I would say that Amazon could still be headed for some pain. So where are we going tomorrow? This was not convincing when we got rejected from the 8 EMA, so I'm going to say that tomorrow, I think Trump comes back from the NATO summit, which was a disaster. Let's see what kind of a mood he's in, but it won't be anything that'll help the stock market. So we're going to go down tomorrow.